Hello there, John Coturillo here, the counsellor of your listener. Thank you for joining me for this episode. As per usual, thank you to everyone who makes it possible for me to live my vision every day, be you a client who allows me the privilege of entering into your life to help you with your goals, or as a listener or supporter of the podcast, thank you to everyone. In today's episode, I'm going to make a philosophical reflection on a particular type of question. It may come in a variety of forms, but ultimately, all the forms reflect a common theme. Am I ever wrong? And I don't mean me personally, but I mean any individual person. As usual, never take what you find on the internet as advice. If you have any concerns of any description, please seek advice from a professional. But it's arguable that in everyone's life, at some point, people ask questions to the effect of, am I wrong? There are variations on it. In that situation, was I the bad person? Was I at fault? Are my beliefs valid or am I believing nonsense? Could I be better? Am I to blame? Should I be taking more responsibility? Are there changes I should be making in my life that I haven't yet identified? With all the bad events that have taken place in my life, am I responsible for all of them? Am I the common factor? These are some of the most difficult questions to answer because of how ambiguous reality is. Today, perhaps more than ever, we are taught to be kind to ourselves. And there is a good reason for that. Throughout history, victims have not been particularly well treated. Victims of crimes and victims of abuse, especially domestic abuse, historically have not been treated well, often not believed that what happened actually happened. People who are mentally ill or disabled have been treated as a lower class and have often been abused in care or simply not received any care because society didn't care enough about them. We've started to recognise that a lot of what we hold to be true isn't necessarily objectively true, and that we should take care of one another, that we should care for our vulnerable, that we should acknowledge when certain of our norms are allowing people to come to harm, and not simply try and gatekeep and protect the egos of powerful people, but hold people accountable. And these changes, to a large extent, are much needed. But we are all human and we are all inherently flawed in some way. And we can't call someone a bad person for having flaws. At the same time, we need to all ask at some stage, am I wrong? Why do we need to ask this? As I've discussed extensively in my work, we are all cognitively biased to some extent. Even though reality is an objective phenomenon in which the way that we perceive something does not change its nature, it's arguable that no one's mind actually has the ability to perceive objective reality in every single aspect of life. Our minds do make interpretations. They distort reality. They imbue our interpretations with emotion and with information that we've previously collected or information that is more salient to us than other information. And that's why on exactly the same issue, people can have radically different perceptions. And we are largely unaware of this. It's a flaw, but it doesn't make us bad people. We can't be expected to control every aspect of our mind. Some aspects we can reasonably be expected to, but it's impossible to have a perfectly attuned mind that perceives objective reality in every possible sense. So none of us knows the ultimate truth about everything, but something which we need to have is the satisfaction with being willing to live, to constantly learn and constantly question ourselves. Because think about this, much of what we hold to be true, much of what we've been taught is not objective reality. It's a narrative designed to explain what happens in the world that is either an oversimplification of objective reality, made with the best of intentions trying to explain something, or a lie that is deliberately told to protect certain people's interests. Now, sometimes we do have to accept certain ideas as true because we have to abide certain norms in order to have a functioning society. But that does not stop you from critically thinking. Yes, there are certain actions, certain behaviors that we have to abide, but not necessarily in all cases. And in any case, it is good for us to analyze information from a variety of perspectives, even though we may be bound to choose a particular behavior. And one of the most difficult paths to take in life is to constantly be learning and constantly questioning what is the truth. Is what I believe true, or is it a distortion? Could I have been wrong in this situation or that situation? Could I perceive things more objectively? Could I be a more critical thinker? One of the most difficult aspects of this is that it requires vulnerability. It requires us to admit, I will never be perfect and I may never know the ultimate truth about certain topics, about certain issues. And this is particularly difficult in a world in which dominance is often claimed by people who claim to know the truth. This is often how people claim dominance. This is often how people obtain power over others. Politicians, pundits, journalists, people in the media, celebrities. Often how they gain power is by claiming that a certain idea is the objective truth and appealing to people who want to hear that because it appeals to something within them. People are attracted to people who tell them what they want to hear. Even if they say, this is what you need to hear, in many cases, it's not necessarily what they objectively need. It's something that appeals to their emotions and they want to hear it. And then they will tell you, anyone who doesn't believe this or anyone who doesn't have the confidence, so to speak, to accept this as true, is less than you. They're weak. And naturally, no one wants to think of themselves as weak. No one wants to hear that they're weak. And often people will accept certain ideas that are not truthful as the truth simply because they want to tell themselves, I believe the truth, therefore I am not weak. But it actually takes a stronger mind to accept that at any given time what you believe may not be objectively true. And it takes that strength of mind to be willing to constantly question what reality is, even if you have to make a decision, to constantly think to yourself, what other information is there that I can use to analyze if I am correct or if I'm incorrect, or if I still need more information, or what other information could I possibly use to make a better decision next time, and to be willing to accept alternative perspectives as potentially being true. It requires real vulnerability to do that. Even though it is a challenge in life, being both honest with yourself about your flaws and confident that you can choose a pursuit or make decisions when you need to, it's one of the most important virtues to have. If you don't have confidence in life, your mind will stop working and you won't be able to proceed with any activity. You won't be able to live your life. But at the same time, if you're so confident, it can become toxic or reckless narcissism in which you refuse to take responsibility for anything. We do make mistakes. Mistakes can have serious consequences. And we need to accept, often, we made those choices ourselves. We have to account for the consequences. But letting that lead us to stop living life because we're too scared of consequences means we'll live no life at all. How do you deal with the anxiety of knowing you have all this responsibility, but none of the ultimately correct answers, and that you ultimately have to use your subjective judgment to decide what to do at a given moment? Honestly, I doubt anyone has the answer, but I live in hope that one day there will be an answer. In the meantime, I'll continue making the choices I know to be right, but also questioning reality in other cases and be willing to accept new information if it becomes available. So thank you for joining me for this philosophical reflection. As per usual, if you have concerns of any description, never take what you find on the internet as advice, always seek professional help. And if you have ideas about what you'd like to hear on the program, or if you'd like to be a guest or collaborator, please contact me. I'd love to hear from you. And until next time, take care.